Our planet is hiding something from you. The ocean is huge. If you dropped Mount Everest into the Mariana Trench, there'd still be 2 kilometers of water above its peak. And if the ocean, for some reason, had no water, and you jumped down to the bottom of the trench, well, it would take you 3.5 minutes of free falling to get there. But there is water there. In fact, Earth is 71% water, and we know practically nothing about its seabed compared to the rest of the world. It's an alien-infested, high-pressure nightmare, deeper than our tallest mountains. Today, we're showing you just how deep the ocean goes. And believe me, it goes. Now, most of us spend our ocean time in the top couple of meters, never venturing past that spot on a dive where your ears pop. And our understanding of this layer was completely rewritten by a rubber duck. Let me explain. This is the ocean you recognize, bright, full of life, the layer of swimming, snorkeling, and sea turtles. But if you never drop down below the spot where your toes dangle in the water, well, then you're less than 1/6,000th of the way to the bottom. That's right, you could stack about 6,000 adults from the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean to the top. It's crazy deep. If the ocean were as deep as I am tall, well, the Eiffel Tower would be about this big, just bigger than my eye. And if my hair were the surface, well, by the time we get down just below my nose, everything is completely dark. The open ocean is mostly endless, dark, cold water, and, well, it's surprisingly well populated. But we hardly have a clue what's down there. Humanity has only mapped 27% of the ocean floor. That means we know less about the seafloor than we do about the surface of Mars. Let that sink in for a moment. We know more about the surface of a planet 400 million kilometers away than we do about our own seabed. So, what about the surface? Well, in 1992, a crate of nearly 30,000 rubber ducks fell off a container ship in the North Pacific and completely rewrote our simple understanding of the surface currents. Those ducks washed up on beaches everywhere along the Pacific, but they also wound up in eastern Canada and even Scotland. That accident, which sounds like a joke, became a real scientific experiment that taught us leagues about our ocean's surface currents. But you're not sticking around here for long, so say goodbye to your bobbling little yellow buddies and plunge under the water. Shipwrecks everywhere. This place is lousy with shipwrecks. The vast majority of the world's estimated 3 million shipwrecks sit in shallow coastal waters. Boats tend to sail along coastlines, and so, well, that's where they tend to sink. And sunken boats make for good sightseeing. Now, most divers never leave these shallows, and most of us treat AI the same way, just floating on the surface, asking a chatbot the odd question. But there's a whole world deeper down, and right now, everybody's diving in. If you've been looking for the moment to dive in and learn Claude, well, this is it. Today's sponsor, Outskill, is running a 2-day Claude AI Mastery Workshop, a full deep dive into Claude and other AI tools. Over 2 days, you'll run deep research, build artifacts, dashboards, and presentations, and get hands-on with Claude Code. Spin up agents and wire up connectors that automate the boring stuff, even your job search. You'll generate videos and visuals. Also, you can put your whole week on autopilot. Sign up today and you also get 3 free bonuses: a personalized AI toolkit builder, an AI prompt Bible, and a set of 50 secret Claude codes to unlock its true potential. And you're going to be learning from industry professionals, people actually building this technology inside companies like Microsoft and Google. 10 million people have already taken it and rated it 4.9 stars on Trustpilot. If you're genuinely interested, sign up now. Seriously, there are only 1,000 free seats, and after that, it flips back to $199 to get in. Links in the description. The first 30 meters down, that's 100 feet, is the stretch where most scuba enthusiasts spend their time diving, and there's so much to see at this depth. Like the iconic SS Thistlegorm, a British supply ship that sank off the coast of Egypt in World War II. Well, this fascinating time capsule has been lying at the bottom of the Red Sea for over 85 years. To get there, you follow the path of Jacques Cousteau, who first discovered it, and then descend the depths of an 8-story office building, or, since we're in the ocean, about the length of one blue whale. The Thistlegorm is known for its stunning collection of now vintage vehicles and weapons. Jeeps, bikes, motorcycles, anti-aircraft guns, and even a train locomotive all litter the wreck for divers to explore. Though at the time, its sinking was a disastrous loss for the Allied forces, this old steamer is now home to coral and wildly colorful schools of fish. And while the Thistlegorm might seem kinda deep to the average diver, it's really nothing. The Titanic is over 100 times deeper. Don't worry, we're gonna get to the Titanic. But next up, you'll reach the Thistlegorm was interesting, sure, but still relatively modern. The deeper you go, well, the longer something sits before we find it, and this area has some truly ancient wrecks. Now, you're still in the sunlight zone, known to scientists as the epipelagic zone, but it is getting darker. Now, if we go back to setting me as equal to the depth of the ocean, with my hair at the surface, at 100 meters down, we're only about here, at my slowly receding hairline. What's there to see here? Well, how about the Great Barrier Reef, the most famous coral reef system on the planet? It stretches 2,300 kilometers along the coast of Australia, in the aptly named Coral Sea. And it takes up nearly 350,000 square kilometers, making it roughly the same size as Italy or Japan. The reef actually starts at a fairly diveable 10 meters, 33 feet, but it drops down to 100 meters and more in places. That's equal to 10 school buses stacked end to end. Now, what's sad is that because of climate change, the reef is under serious threat of extinction. Yeah, the reef itself is alive, and it's also a haven for all kinds of fish, eels, sharks, you name it. Plus species that you might not expect to see as you drift along, like the large green turtle or the dugong, known as the sea cow. Who doesn't want to see a sea cow? Thousands of miles away in this same depth zone off the coast of Italy, you'll discover ancient cargo ships not far from Rome, dating from the 1st century, which were clearly ferrying hundreds of terracotta jars across the sea, but instead wound up 160 meters or 500 feet below the surface, about the depth of a 50-story downtown office building. Now, it looks like they were transporting amphoras. Amphorae filled with oil and, sadly, wine. I mean, spilling one glass of red wine can ruin a night, but spilling a whole shipload? That's a tragedy. These jugs were discovered using robotic submersibles instead of human divers. And really, you aren't actually that deep yet. you're only about 1.5 football fields down. And the lights are already going dim. Well, just wait till you get to... Here, you've stumbled upon the bottom of the ocean. Or the phantom bottom that scientists in the 1940s found. What do I mean by that? Well, you've entered the Twilight Zone. I've always wanted to say that. More accurately, you've entered the mesopelagic zone. Technically, scuba divers can go this deep, but you? Oh, you'd want to crawl into a sub or one of those giant atmospheric diving suits if you want to keep exploring. This is where you spot the first signs of truly bizarre-looking life. Light no longer comes from above. It comes from the creatures themselves. Like the anglerfish, a nightmarish evolutionary concoction with a mouthful of merciless translucent teeth. It's famed for its dangling, angling namesake, a protruding wedge of dorsal spine that waves a bioluminescent lure right in front of its demonic maw. These so-called devilfish first appear around 200 meters down, which is like 3 747s stacked end to end. Now, you wouldn't expect it, but life thrives down here. About 90% of the world's fish live down here in the near dark. You'll find bristlemouth fish in the hundreds of billions, maybe even a quadrillion. You'll also notice that as you drop through the mesopelagic, the temperature drops too, going from an average 12 degrees Celsius, that's 54 Fahrenheit, to a chilly 4 degrees Celsius, 39 Fahrenheit. And as you pass 500 meters in depth, or as far from head to toe as the tip of the CN Tower, you'll encounter some seriously terrifying creatures, like the Kraken, also known as the giant squid. This 10-legged hunter in the dark has haunted our dreams since we first put boats to sea, showing up everywhere from ancient maps to Johnny Depp movies. Now, if you're wondering what feeds all these creatures, it's something called the deep scattering layer, a thick layer of marine organisms so dense that it shows up on sonar, and was the cause of the phantom bottom first observed in the 1940s. Every morning, this scattering of fish, jellyfish, squid, and other creatures migrates downward in the water column to hide themselves from predators. They reach depths that would equal the height of the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa. And then, every night, they drift back up, looking to feed on the rich upper layers of plankton. It's the world's largest mass migration, billions of organisms traveling a vertical kilometer every single day. And as you pass through them on your way to the bottom, you'll notice that there's no more light at all. Now, you're at the top of this zone right now, but down at the bottom, the most famous shipwreck of all, a monstrous vessel eerily preserved since the 1900s. Once you reach the top, 1,000 meters or 3,281 feet down, you enter the Midnight Zone, or the Bathypelagic Zone. It's about 2.25 Empire State Buildings deep. In Peter terms, you're now descending just past my mouth. People, we're already over halfway through this video and we're not even off my face yet. Now, if you're in a sub and you turn on your headlights, you'll be surprised to find it feels kind of like floating through outer space or through the Arctic by night as your lights hit the snow. Because, in a sense, it is. The water column down here is full of what they call marine snow. Marine snow is basically everything that falls into the water and drifts this far down, often after it's been cycled through various animals. Cycled, meaning something ate it and then something else ate it after. One organism's trash is another organism's cycle, if you know what I mean. This far down, it's an essential form of nutrition for the many weird and fascinating creatures with squishy, slimy bodies. But not for these monstrous air-breathing anomalies of the deep, the sperm whales who can easily dive this deep and beyond. But no mammal can naturally reach the depths of the world's most famous shipwreck at the bottom of this zone, the mighty doomed Titanic. Told you we'd get to it. As you descend through the dark and your depth counter ticks past 3,800 meters, that's 12,000 feet, out of the gloom you spot the unsinkable ship that's on the floor of the seabed, where it's been since 1912. Lost in the middle of the Atlantic, its final resting spot wasn't discovered until 1985. It's so deep that there's no building that really compares to that depth, so we'll have to move our comparison to something bigger. 3,800 meters is roughly the height of the legendary Mount Fuji, so if you dropped that entire iconic snow-capped mountain into the ocean, well, you'd almost reach the wreck of the Titanic. Here, you'd still see the ancient vessel's rusting exoskeleton, as well as endless artifacts from wealthy passengers and the crew, well preserved in the dark, cold water. Stick around, take a few photos, and once you get your fill, let's voyage onward until we drop into literally. Scientists actually named this layer of the ocean the abyssopelagic zone. However, the abyss, contrary to its namesake, isn't a void. No, it hosts some of the most interesting geological features and life forms on the planet. And aliens. Well, sort of. As you reach this stage and drift along the ocean floor that makes up a huge part of this zone, you look out onto the abyssal plains. They form one of the largest habitats on Earth, yet they're also one of the least populated. All that marine snow has dried up, and the pressure here is untenable for most organisms. So again, using my body as a depth chart, well, you've passed my chest and are just shy of my ever-expanding waist. Only halfway down, and already you're deeper than what makes sense to our little brains. At 4,000 meters, or 13,000 feet, you're now 36 football fields down. And yet, under the crushing pressure, life still manages to survive here in all kinds of rare forms. Octopus, sea cucumbers, and glass sponges live down here. Glass sponges. Not great for doing the dishes, but they're actually incredibly cool. They're some of the most fragile ancient organisms on Earth. Their glass vase-like structures are actually made of silica, and they live for thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands. An organism literally made of sand. That's alien. Now, lower down, you might find a whale fall. A whale fall is essentially a tidy little phrase that means dead whale carcass at the bottom of the ocean. But in the Abyssal Desert, what it really means is an all-you-can-eat buffet for the locals. Now, the moment the body of a whale touches down, you'll see it drawing in mobile scavengers like sharks and hagfish. Lobsters and snow crabs crawl over each other to get at the massive body of the whale. You ever seen a feeding frenzy of crabs? That is alien. Then, after the obvious bits are gone, that's when the worms and mollusks move in. Within a couple of years, the whale becomes a skeleton. But an ecosystem still surrounds it as bacteria and worms slowly break down its body, sometimes taking as long as 50 years to do it. And this is not the only biological hotspot you'll discover at the bottom of the ocean. Underwater volcanoes create hydrothermal vents that support a surprising variety of life. These volcanoes are found along the rift zones, where Earth's tectonic plates move away from each other. And the organisms here generate energy from sulfur compounds in a way that scientists have theorized could also enable life to evolve on Europa, one of the largest moons of Jupiter. Now, when you reach this stage, near the end of the abyss, you're as deep as Mount Kilimanjaro is high. And there's still one more step to go. Okay, once you've survived the abyss, you're on your way to Hades. That is the Hadal pelagic zone. This is a zone that only exists in the oceanic trenches around the world that reach depths of about 6 kilometers or 4 miles. Now, in comparison to my height again, well, you're just going past my upper thigh. We've now traveled 6.7 Burj Khalifas down, and there's still so much ocean below us. And Oscar award winner James Cameron, of course. Huh? You'll see what I mean. This zone is the most extreme environment on our planet. Complete darkness, crushing pressure, and nearly freezing temperatures, where isolation is absolute. In this last frontier, life is pushed to its biological breaking point. There's just not much living down here. Scientists have found scattered fish, like the snailfish, as deep as 8 kilometers, 5 miles deep, but they theorize that the pressure beyond that is just too much for any creature with bones to exist. Okay, keep going, deeper. At 10,000 meters, well, you're deeper than the distance you can see standing on land, looking out at the horizon. In fact, walk inside and then go up 2.5 stories and look out a window across some perfectly flat prairie farmland, and you still can't see that far. Thankfully, there isn't much to see beyond the trench walls, unless you find yourself in a subduction zone where one continental crust rams into another, and entire tectonic plates are driven back down into the planet's mantle. Venture deeper and head on over to the notorious Mariana Trench, the deepest place in the world, and you'll have so much water over you that there'll be more than 8 tons per square inch pushing down on your body. Ever seen those videos of a hydraulic press versus an iPhone? Yeah, well, you're the iPhone. By the time you reach the bottom of the Mariana Trench, in a special area called Challenger Deep, you'll be in a place as remote and as far from humanity as possible on this Earth. It's deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Think Mount Everest plus half dozen Eiffel Towers. It's so difficult to reach this place that more people have been to the moon. If you make it here, you are officially number 4 on the all-time list of people who have ever been to the absolute bottom of the ocean. That includes a Swiss oceanographer and US Navy pilot back in 1960, and for some reason known only to himself, Oscar-winning film director James Cameron. Yeah, one of the top-grossing film directors of all time is also the only person to make a solo trip to the bottom of the ocean. The Mariana Trench, at its deepest point, is 11,034 meters. That's 36,201 feet. If the world's fastest 1,000-meter dash record holder, Usain Bolt, ran from the surface to the very bottom, running at his maximum measured speed, it would take him 2.5 hours to get down here. You are now down as far as commercial jets fly above the ground. The ocean, like I said at the beginning, is insane. And so is James Cameron, a little bit. Okay, now maybe all this drifting through the dark has got you wondering what it would be like to drift through the biggest void in outer space. Well, that's a story for another What If.